Evaluation question 1, canted angle. This is a scene from Inception where two characters are fighting whilst gravity is shifting. Therefore, a canted angle is appropriate because it makes the audience feel the disorientation and it's hard to keep up with what's happening. This is a character from Batman who is deranged and mentally unstable. Therefore, this canted angle again adds disorientation and makes the audience empathise to what the character is feeling. This is a scene from our trailer where a character is being dragged away from the camera against her will. It makes it seem as though she's dropped the camera in a panic. The character will also be feeling disorientated, and so we wanted the audience to feel it too, as they do when they watch Batman and Inception. We created the shot by placing the camera on the floor and wedging it up with a rock or a stone nearby. This camera angle is also something different to the trailer, and it will make it more interesting to the audience. A different camera angle will make the disorientated effect feel more real, and so will have a better effect. Breaking the fourth wall. This is an example from the Blair Witch Project of a character breaking the fourth wall. This is done to create an intense and personal scene which evokes a lot of emotion. This is a scene from Wayne's World in which he breaks the fourth wall in a binary opposite way to the Blair Witch Project. It's been used in a comedic sense to make the audience feel like they are in on a joke. In our trailer, however, we wanted to mix the two emotions together. We wanted to make the scene intense and frenzied in the sense that the character has been taken and the audience feel panic. However, we didn't want to make it as emotional or as intense as the Blair Witch Project. We also wanted the audience to feel like they are in on it too. So when the character looks at the camera, it suggests that the character is looking at the audience for help. This keeps their attention and evokes emotion without being too intense. Whilst using the handheld camera, we ran over to where Connor was being taken and looked at it straight on as opposed to a side shot. This made it easier for him to look at the camera whilst he was acting. This is a point of view shot. We did this shot because the scene draws the audience in further as they now feel involved in the trailer as one of the teenagers. The effect this has is that it makes them emotionally involved in the trailer. Now the audience will remember it more. Wide shot. This is a high angle shot from James Bond. The main character is chasing the villain up the flight of stairs, and so a high angle shot has been used as a point of view shot to look down on him. This makes him look submissive, as if the villain character has the upper hand. In the scene from The Incredibles, this is a high angle over the shoulder shot of a small boy. The man in the foreground is looking down on him disapprovingly, and the boy is being submissive. The angle exaggerates how small he both is in physical size and social standing. In our trailer, the high angle shot makes the villain submissive to the teenagers and makes the teenagers seem more powerful. It symbolises the effect that the teenagers have when they don't think about the consequences of their actions. We decided to include this shot in our trailer because we felt like it was an important message to portray about when teenagers don't think about the responsibilities of their actions. The effect this has that in James Bond and The Incredibles, the high angle shot is used to make the character seem submissive, and especially in James Bond, it's almost a point of view shot if he was breaking the fourth wall. In our trailer, we have used this point of view shot because we felt like the audience would feel more involved and emotionally connected to the incident rather than the camera was looking at another one of the teenagers. Close up. The close-up in the Blair Witch Project makes the scene more intense and emotional as the audience can see all of her facial expressions and the tears in her eyes. The close-up from The Shining has been used in the opposite way to the Blair Witch Project. The audience can also see all the emotion in his face, however in this part of the film he has become deranged and the facial expressions the audience can see are anger and mental insecurity, which is the opposite to the Blair Witch Project. In our trailer, we used a close-up shot to show how happy the teenagers are when they are in the car together and how they are normal to teenagers having fun and being irresponsible. We managed to take this shot by deciding to have the passenger seat character hold the camera as opposed to someone in the back, as this will make this setting seem more cramped and the teenagers will be able to shoot a better close-up. We decided to include this shot because this is the first scene of all the 4 teenagers, and this close-up is uncomfortably close, which emphasises the cramped conditions in the car. The effect this has is that it reinforces that the teenagers are normal, and it shows their amateur filming. A wide shot. In Iron Man, this shot has been used in conjunction with a low-angle shot to assert dominance and power. In this shot, the audience can also see the suits behind him, which establishes his surroundings. In The Big Bang Theory, the wide shot has also been used to establish the setting too, and the audience is well aware now of all the characters that are in the scene. In our trailer, we have used a wide shot of when the teenagers dump the body. Only 3 of the characters are in the shot, however, and they are of the 2 teenagers doing the manual labour of carrying the body. This supports the stereotype of gender roles that the males do all the physical work. We created this shot by just holding back a little bit when the 2 boys walk ahead. We did this because the shot reminds the audience that they are in fact in the middle of nowhere and reinforces the isolation. The effect this has is that it brings it home to the audience that they are really isolated and makes the footage seem more legitimate, as if it could have actually happened to anybody on a camping trip. Mise en scène, the setting. The setting for Cabin in the Woods is an isolated cabin in the middle of a dark abandoned forest, which is a typical location. The location for Woman in Black is a large abandoned house in the middle of a massive estate. This makes it very isolated, even more eerie though, because the land surrounding it is private, and so no one is ever likely to pass the house directly. In our trailer, the teenagers go camping in the woods and so follow the conventions of an isolated setting. How? We managed to obtain permission from Connor's family to film on their land, and so this meant that no member of the public would be in the background shot, which makes this more believable that they're in an isolated location. Why? The setting follows the convention of horror trailer, and we did this because we know the risk of financial failure would be minimised because the films in the past which followed these conventions were successful. The effect this has on the actors is that we could scream and make loud noises without thinking of nearby residents worrying about the noises. This therefore makes the trailer seem more realistic and believable. Lighting. In I Know What You Did Last Summer, this is a shot of the teenagers when they dump the body in the lake. In the Blair Witch Project, this is a shot of the female character when the film climaxes at its worst. In both of these trailers, the worst part happens in the dark. The dumping of the body is the last scene of one of the main characters before she dies. Therefore, in our trailer, we have made all suspicious scenes happen in the dark, such as the teenagers hearing the entity outside their tents. How? We made sure that we shot these scenes later at night when there was little natural light, so the scenes were darker. Why? This creates a stark contrast between good and bad in the trailer, and the way when we have edited the campfire scene and when the girls hear the entity outside their tent makes this comparison abundantly clear because they are right next to each other. Effect. This makes it 100% apparent to the audience that the intentions of the entity are negative from the beginning by just changing or adjusting the lighting. Props. In I Know What You Did Last Summer, the stereotypical girly character is smoking a cigarette, which is a subtle encouragement from the actor that her character is real and this is just a casual thing that she's doing. In Cabin in the Woods, the stoner character is rolling up some drugs before he smokes it. He is talking while he's doing this, similar to I Know What You Did Last Summer, which makes their performance more realistic and fluid. In our trailer, we have used props when all the characters were around the campfire. This makes the trailer seem more believable and more fluid. It's also more interesting for the audience to see the characters do something different rather than just standing around talking. How? We thought about what teenagers our age would do whilst camping, but while we could still shoot some scenes. We therefore went to the supermarket to buy some marshmallows, and because this scene's dialogue was improv, we worked the marshmallows into the scene. Why? This makes the performance of the actors seem more realistic and not as stilted. Effect. This is more entertaining for the audience and adds to the verisimilitude of the trailer. Fake blood. In Jennifer's Body, this is the scene where she goes missing and she is then found covered in blood. As the audience don't know what happened to her, the excessive use of blood makes the audience wonder what's happened to her, which makes it more horrific. In Kill Bill, the fake blood gives the impression that she may have killed someone. Although this is subtle use of fake blood, it's still effective because it has a spray effect. In our trailer, we've used a small amount of fake blood, which makes the accident seem more legitimate because the accident has just happened when the teenagers go over to the body. How? We pour some fake blood oozing from the character's makeup on his face to look like a bruise and some of the road by his head. This implies that a major head injury, which is the reason he's unconscious. Why? This adds to the realism of the trailer and makes it seem more legitimate. Effect. The audience believes that he could actually have happened because this is a subtle use. Glasses. In Jennifer's Body, the nerd character is easily identified by her glasses. In Superbad, the character with the least amount of input in the social group is the one who can be identified with the glasses. Stereotypically, glasses are needed for those who read and study, and so the denotation is that they are clever. In our trailer, the nerd character can also easily be identified by her glasses, and because of her high intellectual level, she doesn't seem to converse with other members of the group that match. It seems like her character and the version character are similar because they both have a social hindrance. How? We asked our actor to wear some glasses because this will make part of her costume seem more realistic as to what her character would wear. Why? In our audience feedback, our audience asked us to keep the stereotypical characters, and the glasses are a stereotypical part of the nerd's costume. Effect. This adds realism to the trailer and makes the characters and their roles obvious from the beginning. This is a shortcut to their role, which is important in the trailer as we don't have enough time to create a backstory and explain them in the short amount of time we have. Editing fade to black. In this example, the black phase had been used to show change in the setting. In our trailer, black phase had been used to either show a change in the scene, such as from the campfire scene to the scene outside the tent, or when the characters are dumping the body. A jump cut can also be used. How? We used a black fade transition that was readily available on Serif and on iMovie. Why? This gave the trailer a darker, more suspenseful feel, as the connotation of horror is the thought of not knowing what's in the dark. Effect. This makes the audience feel more tense and disorientated when the fades have been used in the jump cut. For example, when a black fade has been used and the location has been changed. Title cards. In the title cards for I Know What You Did Last Summer, they are to the point and easy to read. There are not that many in the trailer, which means not too much of the narrative is told and a lot of footage is shown, as this will draw the audience in. In our trailer, we have only used 5 title cards, and this leaves enough of the 2.5 minutes for footage. We have used the continuing glitch effect on all of the title screens, as this adds to the continuity of them across the trailer. How? The title cards help to break up the trailer, which is important as we need the audience to feel like they want more footage to be shown. Why? They help to explain the narrative further than just the footage, which means that the concept is easily understood, which is important as the audience won't want to watch a film that they either don't understand or know what it's about. Effect. This adds this to the suspense and informs the audience about what the trailer is about. Magazine mise en scène. In the magazine front cover for Fangoria, the main CVI is the possessed girl from Jennifer's Body. She isn't making eye contact with the camera, which is unconventional. However, the picture is gory and horrific, which substitutes for the lack of eye contact. For the front cover of Empire, the character in the main CVI is making eye contact with the camera, which is usually a convention for a magazine front cover as it draws the audience in. This is also a colourful front cover, which is against a black background and so eye-catching. In my front cover, I haven't used a character from my main CVI. Instead, I've used a prop that is important in the trailer, as it suggests that this is what the villain uses to kill the teenagers. How? I took the CVI by going to the location where we shot the trailer and dug the axe into a tree. This exposed the unusual coloured bark underneath and gave a nice effect, I think. Why? I think this adds to the mystery of the marketing campaign and links to the mysterious nature of the film's narrative too. The effect. This makes the audience wonder what the film would be about, as a prop has been used rather than a character. Font. For the font of the film on the cover of Empire magazine, the word Joker is in a different font as to it is shown on the film. This is unconventional, as they're usually the same font, and this links all the marketing campaign together. On the cover of Fangoria, the font of Pan's Labyrinth is the same as it appears in the film, and other features of the film. This helps to link all the campaign together. On my magazine front cover, I've used the same font, as this seems like a more logical convention to use. How? I took a screenshot of Vindicta that I used in the film, as this is where the glitch is. I paused it, took a screenshot, then removed the background on Photoshop and saved this image. This means that on my poster I can have the exact same picture, so this will help to link all my production pieces together more. Why? I think that this is a more logical convention, as I feel that it's important to reinforce the breadth of the marketing campaign. Effect. By making the audience think that there is a larger marketing budget, this will encourage the audience to see it more because they think it's a high budget film. Lighting. The lighting on the cover of Fangoria is very high key, and there is little shadow, which her makeup emphasises further. This makes for a very plain front cover, which, on the shelf of a shop, it will make it stand out the most. On the cover of Film magazine, the main character of Inception has only been lit on one side of his face. The chiaroscuro lighting mimics the narrative of the film, as in the film the character seems to be heading towards the light, the good side. This is also represented in his stance, as he is standing more towards the light than the dark. In my front cover, the only source of light is the natural sun. We went to the location in the evening when the sun was low, therefore the angle of the sun on top of the axe was easy to achieve, and I think it's very effective. How? I hit the axe into the tree and managed to position myself to take a picture of the sun just glistening on the top of the axe. Why? From doing research on other front covers, the lighting was dramatic and unique in some way, therefore this follows the convention. Effect. This was a very unusual lighting, which makes the audience look twice at the cover. The light at the top is slightly obstructing the view of the axe, which I think is very effective, as it makes the weapon look more mysterious. Layout. The layout of the Film magazine featuring the Inception feature is fairly chaotic, and there seems to be cover lines on the right hand side, but they are only one line long. Despite this, however, the magazine is centred, which is an unusual convention, and it brings attention to it. On the cover of the film front cover, which features Star Trek, the layout is simple and easy to read, which makes it effective in informing the reader. The title of the film and the masthead is in a similar font, however, which I tried to do on my front cover, but I thought that it took the attention away from either the masthead. And so, since I couldn't change the font of the film name, I changed the masthead font, which made more sense. How? I played around with the layout of the cover lines in order not to obstruct the light. I decided to add a puff, which I think balances out the front cover much more. Why? I thought it was important to show the light source, and so I changed the side which the cover lines were on. How? On Photoshop, I took screenshots of the different layout ideas so I could compare and contrast the different layout styles, and decided on this one as I think it's the most effective. Colour scheme. The colour scheme for Empire magazine featuring the Joker is very dark, then it has a bright basic prime colours. This reinforces the Joker's childlike games that he plays, as primer colours are the basic colours children usually have. On the cover of Empire magazine featuring the X-Men feature, the colours are fairly bright, and the cold blue, which is white in some places, makes it seem even colder. The red masthead contrasts with the blue and makes it stand out further. In my front cover, the colours red and green are opposite in the colour wheel, and so they contrast. This makes it more appealing as the green matches the green foliage in the background, and the red is a typical convention of a front cover anyway, but even more so on a horror film magazine front cover. How? I used Photoshop to change the colours easily by adding different colour overlay on them. After trial and error and finding an appropriate colour scheme, I searched for pictures of a colour wheel and tried green and red. I thought this worked very well and I decided to stick with it. The effect this has is it's eye-catching and unique. In the poster for Day of the Dead, only half the face is shown, which I think is unique and different, and not much background is shown. In the poster for the Blair Witch Project, the rule of thirds has been used and a third of the face is shown. This again is very unique and different, and again not much background is shown. In my poster, I've decided to follow this convention by only photographing half of the main characters' faces. How? I took all the main characters to the location and took pictures of them looking scared. Overall, I think this is very effective and unique. Why? This is a very different style of poster, as the usual convention is that they are the whole character. Effect. This subverts the convention, and I think because it does, it will bring more attention to it. Props. In the poster for Toritas, the shadow of the weapon is casting on her face. This combined with the fear in her eyes suggests that she is about to be killed, which informs the audience about the story straight away. For the poster for The Conjuring, the only prop that can be seen is the doll. This is an important prop in the film, and so the main focus of the poster is on it, as it's in the centre of the poster and the camera is facing it, and it's in the light. There are no props in my poster, such as the axe, as the poster is the picture of the teenagers turning the camera on themselves, and the axe is the villain's weapon. How? I took a picture on location of myself looking distraught and scared. I then photoshopped it to make it look like a night vision camera had taken the picture by adding filters and gradient overlays. Why? I recreated this for all 5 of the main characters, as I thought this would add some buzz about the film, because people want to collect them all. How? I took 3 out of 5 of the main characters to the location and took pictures of them looking scared and only half their faces, so this helped to bring trauma to the story. Text font. The text for The Conjuring is easy to read, which is important because this is the most important convention in the poster. The font is fairly unique, as all the letters join at the top, so this can easily be used across various marketing features such as magazine front cover, as it doesn't distract too much attention. The font of my poster is a combination of the font used in the film, a standard font for the credits, and an easily readable font for the release date, which is really important as this is a very important convention. For the font for the tagline, I've used an old style typewriter effect which emphasises the glitch. I've then added the words alone with a further photoshopped glitch effect which emphasises this further. How? I've tried and tested a variety of fonts on Photoshop and selected the most appropriate one for the text. Why? I wanted to make my poster interesting without it being too overcrowded, and I think that this subtly gives the eye more to look at. Effect. This makes the audience look at the various conventions more and remember them. For example, the Vindicta is more interesting than having a font the same as the tagline. Layout. On the cover of Entertainment Weekly, the layout of all 4 covers are roughly the same. Some alterations have been made due to the photograph used, but all the conventions are all in the same order. I think that this is important because it shows continuity across the marketing campaign and shows that they are competent. If, for example, different colour schemes or fonts or the layout is different, then this will make the audience think that if they can't complete a magazine front cover, then why would they be able to be any good at producing a film? For the layout of the posters, I thought it would be important to have them all the same. Therefore, I edited one picture, then deleted the original one and placed the new one in its place. This meant I can easily exchange the photos and keep the text layout the same. On some of them, I had to change the position of the film name as it would have obstructed their faces, but apart from that, I tried to keep it the same throughout. Why? I thought that it was important to keep continuity across the marketing campaign, and so I decided to keep the exact same layout where I could. Effect. This makes them easily identifiable, and some enthusiasts of the film may want to collect them all, and so this will be important that the layout is the same when they are all next to each other. Colour scheme. Similar again to the front covers, I thought it was important to keep continuity across all 4 posters. Therefore, I followed the same tutorial and attempted to get the same contrast, brightness and gradient colours on all the 5 posters. The colour of a night vision camera causes a green glowing effect, which I thought I could use as it would be effective. This is distinctive and will make them easily recognisable as a group of teaser posters or as an individual poster. Why? I decided to go for this colour scheme because from doing research into the posters, the poster for Rec was something that I remembered, and this was also a found footage film, so I thought it would be effective if I used something similar. How? I found various tutorials on YouTube which helped me to edit the poster in the way that I wanted, and as I did more and more, I became more confident and made the alterations I thought more appropriate. Why? I think apart from the Rec, this is a unique concept and so will be memorable. It also gives the audience a sense of what the film is about, which I think is important, as they then know what to expect, i.e. teenagers in a found footage styled film. Lighting. The lighting for the screen poster is again low and directional. The lighting is chiaroscuro and doesn't give much information about what's in the background, which is a denotation of horror. The main focus for the poster of Rec is her face, and the blackness makes the audience wonder what's in it and what she's hiding from. This photograph has been taken in low light, and the only source of light seems to be directional from the camera. On the poster, I've attempted to recreate the same by not showing too much of the background, and the main focus being on the characters' faces. I wanted the lighting to be low on all the posters to add to the verisimilitude of the teenagers being in the setting. Lighting is low on all the posters, and this causes a natural shadow which could be difficult to recreate on Photoshop. How? I took them all to the location when it was dark and took pictures with the flash on so natural contrast was high. Why? This makes it more believable that the teenagers are actually in the woods alone and they are genuinely scared. Effect. This adds to the verisimilitude of the marketing campaign and will make the film seem more competent because of the posters.